This incredible misfortune has led Ada to a deeply held conviction. She is required to marry her initial love, or she is fated to a lifetime of sorrow. Then, as though destined, she gazes upon an international student named Rusgar and is immediately and completely smitten with him. When he confronts potential deportation due to his expiring student visa, he issues an urgent appeal to his whole class for a contractual marriage. In a moment of sheer, unfiltered emotion, Ada springs onto a table and valiantly proclaims that she will be his bride. They wed, and for 3 extensive years, Ada makes the most profound concessions for this man. She abandons her university studies entirely, taking on multiple demanding jobs simply to provide for them while he follows his photography aspirations. Can you even fathom the devotion required to purchase him guitars and cameras while leading a clandestine existence concealed from her family? Following 3 years, when Rusgar at last obtains his citizenship, Ada anticipates an authentic proposal, a genuine beginning to their shared life. Rusgar even creates a magnificent performance for the official, brandishing a ring and professing his eternal devotion to his wife. But it was all a soul-crushing charade, because the moment the official departs, he callously inquires about his missing trousers and leaves her standing there utterly broken. Now allow me to present the exceptionally charismatic Borodorosos, a prosperous and intricate businessman with his own profound troubles. He manages a compelling social media enterprise, but he is entirely alienated from his domineering father and tormented by a prior romance. Bora is raising his cherished young niece Elif following a devastating family loss, revealing a genuinely soft side to his otherwise protected demeanor. In a peculiar twist of fate, Bora visits a restaurant on a date as part of some covert research for an article. He feigns being a blatant woman hater, uttering the most preposterous statements about men and women simply to measure his date's response. Our Ada is coincidentally his server, and she catches every word of this startling dialogue. Brimming with a justified rage, she strides directly to him and declares he is an utterly heartless man for mistreating women so terribly. Naturally, this remarkable display of courage results in her immediate termination, which is simply so unjust. In need of solace, she goes to surprise Rusgar at his office, only to encounter the most spirit-breaking sight conceivable. She discovers him fervently embracing his colleague Tuche, and in that one instant, her whole world and every concession she made disintegrate before her eyes. Completely overcome with sorrow, she speeds away and then abruptly stops her car in the center of the road. And you will be astounded by who collides with her vehicle. It is Bora himself, in the most incredible happenstance of all time. He hastens her to the hospital, where she receives care for a head wound and is given medicine that leaves her extremely sleepy and disoriented. Despite their terrible initial encounter, Bora reveals an unexpectedly empathetic side, remaining with her and assisting her when she feels unwell. Seated on a park bench, this man she believed was callous accurately surmises her betrayal and shares the deepest insights about romantic pain. He thoughtfully conveys that all anguish eventually fades, and that women, astoundingly, manage these situations better than men over time. When Ada at last returns home, she discovers Rusgar waiting, and what transpires is one of the most brutal exchanges I have ever observed. He dispassionately informs her that Tooch is prettier, more gifted, and more accomplished, a woman who truly makes him feel masculine. He confesses that over 3 years, Ada became akin to a sibling for him, but he never once viewed her as a woman he could genuinely cherish. He states their union was solely for his citizenship, a mere arrangement that held no further meaning for him, which is simply shattering. Consumed by a spectacular and potent fury, Ada at last releases her anguish and demolishes every item she ever purchased for him. She shatters the guitar and the camera she toiled to acquire and valiantly ejects him from her apartment permanently. In the meantime, an utter disaster is developing for Bora entirely without his knowledge. Someone covertly recorded his anti-woman performance at the restaurant and altered the video to strip away the context of it being research. The footage spreads like wildfire, making him a public pariah overnight and completely demolishing his company and good name. His associates void their agreements, his credit is suspended, and he learns that the establishment's security recordings have been opportunely pilfered. In desperation, he approaches his own father for assistance, but his father proposes funds only in return for command over his life, an offer Bora courageously declines. Simultaneously, Ada's friend Celine makes an astonishing find. The restaurant manager, Burkhan, was bribed to covertly tape Bora. United, Ada and Celine formulate the most ingenious scheme, staging a fire alarm to entrap Burkhan. They brandish a toy weapon and coerce him with proof of his personal indiscretion, compelling him to resign and surrender the raw, unaltered footage. Ada now possesses the single item in existence that can redeem Bora's good name and his enterprise. So, with the utmost self-assurance, she strides into Bora's office, feigning interest in an employment position he had posted. When he identifies her and attempts to eject her, she serenely discloses her final leverage. She possesses the recording. He is utterly frantic for the evidence of his vindication, but she states a condition that will alter their lives forever. She demands employment. Trapped between his enormous ego and the preservation of his entire empire, Bora has no option but to consent, employing her as his new aide. This stunning instance of coercion and necessity marks the beginning of the most thrilling and amorous tale you could possibly envision. A truly magnificent tale unfolds as the fiercely resolute Ada steps into the firm, poised to take back her whole world. Her objective is simply stunning. She has taken the position of Bora's new aide to reclaim her spouse Ruzgar from her competitor Tuche. Can you possibly comprehend the brazen nerve of the office personnel who instantly disregard her and heartlessly begin referring to her as 27 instead of by her name? They start wagering on her tenure, totally misjudging the phenomenal powerhouse who has just walked through their doors. After Bora attempts to dismiss her for extorting him with an incriminating video, Ada deploys the most ingeniously brilliant counter-strategy I have ever seen. She expertly secured a strong contract. It guarantees her job for a full 6 months with a large penalty for ending it early. It is a simply iconic instance of bargaining that leaves the formidable Bora utterly astounded and compelled to accept her conditions. Concurrently, Bora's whole enterprise is confronting a calamitous monetary predicament due to that notorious viral recording.
Ada promptly commences her covert fact-finding operation, winsomely getting close to Pyrrol to collect information on Tucha and Ruzgar. She discovers the most staggering revelation possible. Ruzgar and Tucha have been seeing each other for just 3 days. This disclosure is a total paradigm shift, sending seismic tremors through the workplace and validating Ada's intuition. The stakes are then elevated to an incredible new level when a pivotal business dinner is scheduled for a million-lira advertising deal. But you have to hear this. Ada, utterly exasperated by Ruzgar's patronizing attitude, resolves to undermine Tucha's presence at the dinner. In a stroke of sheer, unfiltered brilliance, she medicates Tucha's cleansing beverage, making her fall into a profound and untimely slumber. This leads to the most comical predicament where Tucha becomes trapped inside a boutique, entirely absent from the significant gathering. With her adversary sidelined, Ada splendidly persuades a highly hesitant Bora to accompany her to the event instead of Tuche. You will scarcely credit what unfolds next. To account for their circumstances, Bora must present Ada as his significant other to the clients. And oh my, Ada meets this unforeseen test with the most dazzling poise and captivating charisma imaginable. She offers an immensely heartfelt and genuine vindication of Bora's integrity, entirely charming the Tarzan couple. Just as events appear to be unfolding flawlessly, Tucci and Ruzgar sensationally interrupt the meal, sparking a tremendously tense standoff. In a display of sheer malicious wickedness, Ruzgar deliberately gives Ada liquor-filled chocolates, knowing full well she has a serious aversion to alcohol. The result is both immediate and disastrously potent, as the spirits render our dear Ada progressively and uncontrollably liberated. She then delivers the most astonishingly disorderly monologue over the restaurant sound system about duplicity and faithless men. It is a scene of such deep, vicarious mortification, yet it is so magnificently theatrical that you are unable to turn away. The wonderfully chivalrous Bora handles the predicament, gallantly escorting the inebriated Ada home, where he encounters her watchful family. The next day, in a genuinely gut-wrenching moment, Bora dismisses Ada for utterly destroying the business prospect and incurring massive damages. But Ada, in a magnificent show of self-respect and grace, shreds his severance payment to bits, declining to take even a penny. Then, in the most flabbergasting turn of events conceivable, the client, Serdar Tarsan, appears to finalize the agreement regardless. He discloses that he was so profoundly moved by Ada's stanch devotion as a partner that he recognized Bora was an honorable man with whom he could do business. This remarkable development compels Bora to face the staggering irony that the very individual who clinched the deal is the person he just let go. Experiencing a deep sense of equity, Bora performs the most splendidly bold act by ascending to Ada's balcony to offer her the job back. He fervently declares that he requires a capable, trustworthy aide and that her return is essential, and she ultimately gracefully consents. The whole saga concludes with the most touching sequence at the birthday celebration for Bora's utterly charming daughter, Elif. Ada presents the young girl with a telescope, a profoundly considerate present that ignites an immediate and wonderfully enchanting bond between them. This lovely domestic scene offers such a striking contrast point to the prior workplace turmoil, suggesting a remarkable future ahead. Our fantastic Ada has not just weathered her initial major challenge, but has come through fortified, solidifying her employment and her bond with Bora and his kin. It is staggering what Tuche asks of Ada. She demands her to become a dedicated spy on Bora. Tuche requires an hourly account of Bora's every move, a truly brazen and total betrayal of confidence. She then has the sheer nerve to menace Ada's position, highlighting how quickly she could forfeit all her hard work. Confronted with this untenable predicament, Ada devises an intricate and ingenious scheme with her Aunt Yasemin. The objective is wonderfully clever in its complexity. Unite Tuche and Bora so that Tuche will at last cease pursuing Ruskar. Ada fervently wishes this will pave the way for a potential reunion with her own former flame. Ada's initial step is to guarantee Tuche ends things with Rusgar, and it unfolds in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. Before the entire office, Tuche openly declares to Rusgar their connection was merely a passing fancy and nothing significant. She callously informs him he can remain on the periphery of her existence, which is a truly crushing thing to hear. Ada naturally is inwardly rejoicing at this development because it signals her cunning strategy is officially underway. Then, in a stroke of brilliant mayhem, Ada fabricates a tale about Tuche's mother requiring an operation for fibroids. She dispatches a stunning arrangement of 33 red roses to Tuche, feigning they are from Bora as a token of concern. Her reasoning was delightfully preposterous, selecting 33 roses to symbolize 11 for each of the 3 imaginary fibroids. This scheme unravels in the most magnificent way when Bora discovers her actions. He is completely incensed that she dispatched amorous red roses, exclaiming that she should have chosen something suitable like orchids. Aware that Bora uses social media to investigate women, Ada and Tuche construct a flawless, fictitious profile named Ideal Woman. It is utterly amusing because Tuche demonstrates she is entirely unable to compose anything compelling enough to snag his interest. Consequently, Ada must assume control of the correspondence, and she is a natural talent at it. She composes these remarkably clever and provocative messages that leave Bora instantly captivated. He becomes truly intrigued by this enigmatic and stimulating ideal woman he is conversing with digitally. They plan to convene at a restaurant with the perfectly fitting name Darkness Blue, but the evening descends into sheer chaos. The whole rendezvous is sabotaged when a nearby group of women erupts into a huge theatrical outburst regarding men. It all climaxes in an incredible spectacle where the patrons are chanting "Shame on you" at every gentleman present. Compounding the issue, Rusgar appears and detains Tuche, sending the entire rendezvous into complete disarray. Following that complete debacle, Ada and Bora find themselves together at a humble yet delightful coquerette stand. This close-knit setting permits them to share the most deeply authentic and sincere conversation we have witnessed so far. Bora unveils a remarkably unguarded part of himself, confessing he possesses 3 personas that he conceals from everyone. He requests that Ada guard his confidence, revealing a genuinely real and modest side that is completely enthralling. Their bicycle journey home is laden with breathtaking instances of intimacy that suggest something more profound is forming between them. In another stunningly daring act, Ada saves her own contact information as Bara in Tucha's phone to preserve her scheme. She then manufactures a fraudulent conversation using spliced audio fragments from previous chats with Bara. The resulting dialogue is utterly peculiar and illogical, yet Tucha is somehow convinced Bora is professing his amorous feelings for her. Feeling newly courageous, Tuche proposes an excursion to Bora's mountain cabin, feigning it is for a company photo session. Bara consents, but in a wonderful turn of events, he stipulates that Ada must accompany them on the business outing. Just when it seems matters cannot get more entangled, Ruzgar covertly trails them and makes a surprise appearance at the mountain cabin. The atmosphere among them grows extraordinarily fraught as they all share a meal together under one roof. When the moment to depart arrives, Bora's vehicle inexplicably fails to start, leaving them absolutely stranded. They are marooned 5 kilometers from town with no conceivable method of returning for the evening. The episode opens with an absolutely jaw-dropping moment as Ruzgar gets down on one knee and proposes to Tucha. Could you picture the utter pandemonium? Because our poor Ada is so overcome by the spectacle that she collapses right then and there. And listen to this, Tuche. Accepts, but it is all a cunning and masterful scheme intended to drive Bora completely mad with envy. Following this profound heartache, Ada makes a truly admirable choice to convert her anguish into career-driven focus. She announces with fierce determination that she will not resign. Rather, she will strive like never before to usurp Tuche's position. Simultaneously, Bora issues a crushingly frigid directive to Ada, instructing her unequivocally to remain entirely separate from his private affairs. He expressly prohibits her from visiting his home again, establishing an immensely strained and poignant separation. Ada is left completely bewildered and wounded as he declines to offer any genuine explanation for this abrupt and harsh dismissal. Then the narrative shifts to a genuinely pulse-pounding development when Bora's sweet little niece Elif vanishes from the residence. During a fit of sheer alarm, they find she had covertly stowed away in the boot of Ada's uncle's vehicle, all due to missing Ada immensely. This entire incident results in Ada's uncle, Aslan, boldly striding into the workplace to challenge Bora's father regarding the unreasonable hours Ada's keeping. As the whole group hurries to Ada's family residence, they observe a deeply moving bond form between Elif and Ada. The young child even mentions that Ada's eyes resemble her own mother's, a declaration so impactful it stirs everyone's soul. Even Bora's father, Zafar, is noticeably affected, at last realizing how essential Ada's nurturing presence is for his granddaughter. Alongside this drama, we uncover Tucha's completely outrageous covert plan, which involves extortion and clandestine recordings of Bora. Her questionable conduct does not escape attention as Ruzgar starts to trail her, nearing the discovery of her perfidious plot. Seeking refuge from the sentimental chaos, Bora makes the dubious choice to dine with his former partner, Fulya. Naturally, Ada and Tucha refuse to allow this, launching a desperate quest and telephoning eateries across the city to locate them. Their pursuit results in the most cringe-worthy restaurant meeting imaginable, ending in a colossal showdown. Ada grows intensely protective when Fulya offers patronizing comments, igniting a fiery dispute that mortifies all present.
Bora is absolutely seething at Ada for this incredible invasion of his privacy, and he is on the very brink of dismissing her. The sole thing preventing Ada's termination is the opportune arrival of news regarding the emergency with his vanished niece, Elif. In a remarkable turn of events, Zafar demands that Ada must reside at their home as a visitor to help nurture the delicate Elif.
This compulsory closeness unavoidably sparks the most volatile disagreement yet between Ada and Bora over a family meal.
They engage in a profoundly intimate and abstract discussion on the nature of love itself, with Bora adopting an incredibly skeptical stance. The dispute intensifies into something genuinely venomous as they hurl exceptionally cruel allegations at each other. Bora, in a moment of pure exasperation, calls our wonderful Ada impolite, which is simply astounding. But Ada, our spirited protagonist, retaliates with an impeccable retort, calling him a brute right to his face. Brimming with injured dignity, she makes the remarkably courageous choice to charge into the nearby forest to compose herself. Even though she has a complete lack of orientation, her resolve is simply too powerful to choose the simple path. And then, in a fateful turn of events, Bora pursues her into the woods, his injured leg not hindering his resolute chase for an instant. Their reunion in the forest is charged with the most incredible sarcastic energy you have ever seen. Ada observes that his prediction of misfortune always finding them has materialized with remarkable swiftness. At that exact moment, in a truly theatrical development, military personnel emerge unexpectedly and apprehend them both. Can you believe it? They were trespassing on military grounds, an error that leads to the most unforeseen repercussions. Back home, their relatives start to feel concerned, a wave of tangible apprehension washing over everyone. This leads to a truly delightful gathering of two families as Ada's aunts and uncle arrive at Bora's stately residence. Little Elif, the sweetest little girl, becomes immediately fond of Ada's kin, creating an utterly touching moment. She insists they all remain for supper, and together they prepare the most scrumptious rounded meatballs from her late mother's recipe. Meanwhile, a breathtaking love story is blossoming between the charming Ali and the enigmatic Celine. Ali, utterly captivated by affection, makes a call just to hear her voice, which is the absolute height of romance. Celine confesses she was resisting the impulse to call him for 3 whole hours and 27 minutes, an admission of sheer heartfelt devotion. Ali declares with deep insight that in matters of love, there are no concepts of fast or slow, only the sincerity of one's feelings. At the same time, an immensely strained encounter unfolds between the conniving Tuğçe and the secretive Evren. Rizgar, in a moment of impeccable timing, observes their clandestine discussion and acquires the ultimate advantage imaginable. He discreetly threatens to reveal Tuğçe's confidential matters, backing her into a corner and altering their relationship forever. Then, the very handsome Evren arrives at Bora's home and is instantly enchanted by the lovely Yasemin. He becomes completely infatuated, asking Ada the most endearingly earnest inquiries about Yasemin's zodiac sign. The attraction is entirely reciprocated as Yasemin finds him handsome like a crescent moon, a wonderfully lyrical comparison. In the face of dwindling site traffic, Bora proposes a contest that will alter everything. Ada, with remarkable cleverness, suggests covering arranged unions to impart a lesson to Tuche and Ruzgar they will never forget. Bora finds the subject tremendously fascinating and launches a writing competition between Ada and Tuche. For her research, Ada arranges a profoundly moving interview you could possibly imagine. She has her sister Celine portray a woman who cannot hear, delivering a stunning performance that strikes right at the heart. Speaking on behalf of Cater, Ada gives a truly poignant commentary on love, heartbreak, and the fantasies that men construct. During this cleverly fabricated interview, Bora's keen intellect discerns that something is not quite right. He makes the startling realization that Cater is in fact Celine, a disclosure that entangles the situation entirely. While all this unfolds, poor Ali is becoming thoroughly inebriated due to his consuming emotions for Celine. Bara and Ada discover him at a bus stop, waiting for a bus that he hopes goes to Celine, a sentiment both heartbreaking and profoundly touching. The night of the article deadline arrives, and with it comes a truly contemptible act of treachery. The malevolent Tuche pilfers Ada's superb article, Game of Fate, and presents it as her own creation. When the articles are published, Ada's plagiarized piece receives over 190,000 clicks, a testament to her extraordinary gift. Ada, devastated and enraged, confronts Bora, earnestly attempting to prove the work is her own. In an utterly crushing moment, Bora doubts her word and rejects her entreaties, shattering her spirit completely. But then a recollection surfaces in Bora's mind, a pivotal detail that alters his whole viewpoint. He recalls listening to Ada read the article aloud and pulling up the document finally recognizes the indisputable reality. It is astonishing, but Bora discovered Ruzgar at Ada's residence clad only in a bathrobe, and his suspicion was completely through the roof. Ada's justification was profoundly desperate and sincere, recounting how a devastated Ruzgar appeared heavily intoxicated after clashing with Tuche. It was such a candid and relatable instant when they shared pizza in Bora's vehicle, resulting in the sweetest misconception about a yogurt mustache. Then, in a flash of pure spellbinding closeness, Ada inquired about the mark on Bora's face, and his disclosure was simply astounding. He recounted a deeply personal tale from his youth about tumbling from a mulberry tree and almost losing his sight, a confidence that drew them remarkably nearer. Their bond strengthened in a truly enchanting manner when Ada persuaded him to stroll shoeless in a park, sensing the blades of grass underfoot. And then Bora transformed into the supreme guardian, ferociously shielding Ada from some dreadful men with chillingly specific warnings of shattered bones. The escapade took a comical twist when they found their footwear had been pilfered, compelling them to trek home without shoes in an exceptionally endearing and disorderly sequence. Back at the workplace, an astounding disclosure surfaced, and it altered the entire situation completely. It was unearthed that the sensational Snow White marriage piece, which had shattered all company benchmarks, was truly authored by Ada, not Tuche. Ada demonstrated her remarkable principles by opposing a public retraction, safeguarding the firm's standing, even at the cost of her own recognition. In a motion that is utterly heart-melting, Bora presented Ada with his prized fountain pen, a token of his fresh admiration for her exceptional skill. He instructed her that she must continue to write to ensure the ink never runs dry, which is simply the loveliest analogy for her promise I have ever encountered. Meanwhile, the Dogra's home was a scene of absolute mayhem as Belma became weary of her visitors and Nergiz started concocting unique fertility elixirs. In a wonderfully comical turn of events, Zephyr inadvertently consumed the potent concoction intended for Aslan, resulting in the most unforeseen night of passion in his life. The storyline then escalated in a truly electrifying manner when Evren found a pamphlet for a dubious relationship counselor named Sevgi. Bora's response was immediate and charged, as he identified her as a well-known swindler named Vilden who had disappeared ages ago. He instantly perceived the chance for a groundbreaking exposé, resolving to go incognito at her couple's getaway to reveal her true identity permanently. And in a profoundly theatrical move, Bora selected Ada as his pretend partner for the assignment, leaving Tuche utterly marginalized. The getaway was instantly suspect, compelling all attendees to relinquish their phones and lodging them in small, wretched quarters while the imposter resided in sheer opulence. The trust-building activities were remarkably powerful, pushing Ada and Bora into profoundly personal scenarios that muddled the boundary between pretense and reality. A blindfolded tactile exercise required them to see with their eyes shut, and it was in this instant of complete defenselessness that Ada touched the mark from his youthful tale. Bora then concocted a truly ingenious strategy to investigate Sevgi's room, employing Ruzgar and Tuche as the ideal distraction. What they uncovered within was an illicit enterprise far exceeding their wildest expectations, a finding that was genuinely staggering. They located a currency counting machine and a strongbox crammed with duplicated passports, exposing a terrifying identity fraud racket. They narrowly avoided capture by concealing themselves together in a closet, an instance of compelled closeness that sent the emotional strain skyrocketing to incredible levels. During the concluding workshop session, events took a highly theatrical turn when pairs were prompted to divulge their most profound secrets. Ada rose and made a stunning admission, conceding her marriage to Ruzgar was a sham and that she had joined the firm under false pretenses. She branded herself a deceiver before the entire group, an act of such stark, crushing candor that the gravity of each word was palpable. Bora, always the masterful tactician, cleverly preserved their facade by recounting a moving yet entirely invented tale about losing his cat Duman. The getaway's culmination was a splendid tango showcase, and the connection between Ada and Bora was utterly magnetic. Despite some preliminary hesitation, their dance evolved into something deeply personal and lovely, a genuine dance of spirits. Throughout the dance, they shared a significant exchange, with Ada confronting Bora's jaded perspective on love in a manner that was both courageous and exquisite. She proposed that his denial of love was a form of sightlessness itself, and the romantic friction grew nearly impossible to witness. Precisely as their dance hit its emotional crescendo, law enforcement descended upon the building in an impeccably timed operation. Sevgi's bid for freedom was utterly pointless, and she was apprehended on the spot with her whole gang of felons. Ada experienced a truly liberating and potent showdown with the swindler, labeling her a love destroyer and insisting on justice for all her victims. The episode ignites with sheer pandemonium when Ada's Uncle Salah makes an unexpected arrival at the office. Can you picture the incredible discomfort as Salal embraces her with profound fondness, calling her daughter directly before the impassive Bora? Ada, in a flash of remarkable ingenuity, concocts an incredible tale explaining they know Uncle Salal through Selin from the Immigration Bureau. She then complicates her predicament further by inventing another falsehood, declaring Selin will be joining the firm shortly. Just when it seems the situation cannot get more tangled, Ali appears, compelling Ada to introduce him as an unknown new arrival to mask the escalating bewilderment. You can almost witness the cogs turning in Bora's mind as his skepticism blossoms into a colossal, irrefutable tempest of uncertainty. In an act of pure despair, Ada draws Bora aside to clarify the completely staggering dilemma she faces. She discloses the most astonishing revelation. She and Ruzgar are concealing their marriage from all their colleagues. Ada clarifies that their superior, who is ironically Bora, is a notorious workaholic, convinced that married pairs are entirely unproductive as a team. With poignant sincerity, she confesses to falsifying her marital status on her employment application simply to secure an opportunity. It is truly crushing to see her so overcome, admitting how deeply exhausted and mortified she is by this tangled deception. Bora is clearly and deeply unsettled by the whole affair, as participating in such an intricate falsehood contradicts his core principles. He then attempts to steer things correctly in a very discreet manner, suggesting to Ali that Selin ought to be truthful about her own confidential matters. The pressure then intensifies to a nearly insufferable point when Selin herself strolls through the office doors. What ensues is the most frenzied and comical teamwork imaginable as Ada and Ruzgar gesture frantically over urgent phone calls. Their sole crucial objective is to keep Salal from spotting Selin, an encounter that would make their whole fabrication catastrophically collapse. In a stroke of sheer split-second brilliance, Ruzgar succeeds in hiding himself just instants before he would have been found. Afterward, back at their flat, Salal's sharp intellect grows exceedingly wary about the utter absence of marital proof. He shrewdly inquires why a presumably wedded pair possesses 0 pictures together with not one nuptial photograph in sight. Ruzgar, bless him, devises the most preposterous justification conceivable, asserting they were too destitute for a photographer. He implies the utterly perplexing comparison that a tailor cannot stitch his own garments, a notion that is somehow perfectly logical only to him. To resolve this fictional issue, Salal makes the stunning choice to organize a formal wedding photo shoot for them personally. The whole scenario spirals into delightful absurdity when Ada is compelled to don a bridal gown and pose for pictures with Ruzgar. One must witness the painfully uncomfortable yet comical looks on their faces as they endure this ornate, fabricated photography session. Meanwhile, the admirably ethical Bora wrestles profoundly with his conscience, tortured by his participation in the deceit. He approaches Ada, informing her with immense gravity that his individual honor is too valuable to be jeopardized any further.
Then, in a stroke of perfect dramatic irony, Bora brings Ada to her own past university for a scholarship function. He requests that she deliver a spontaneous address to the students, a plea laden with a wealth of unvoiced strain. Ada then presents a deeply touching and motivational oration about pursuing one's aspirations, a talk made infinitely more potent because she is inhabiting a falsehood. Her stunning remarks on how our spirits can ascend from the very spot of our downfall are simply astoundingly moving given her situation. The pressure surges once more when a student nears her, professing his sister was in her graduating year, almost revealing her secret on the spot. She expertly diverts the query with an additional untruth, stating she was ill and absent for the graduation pictures. But then, the most heart-wrenching meeting of all happens when she bumps into her cherished old literature professor, Chittum. The instructor recalls Ada with great warmth, naming her among the most gifted pupils she has ever taught, which is simply devastating. Professor Chidam discloses that Ada earned a flawless mark on her final thesis and conveys utter astonishment that she withdrew with only 3 terms remaining. This potent reunion completely overwhelms Ada, intensifying the tremendous burden of her disgrace and the aspirations she forsook. Overcome by everything, she finally collapses in the car and informs Bora of the most staggering news yet. She wishes to resign from her position. She admits with unfiltered feeling that she is unable to go on deceiving him for another moment. Bora is utterly stunned and noticeably wounded, incapable of understanding why she would discard her ambitions and profession. His pain immediately converts into indignant fury, and he bursts into the workplace with incredible forcefulness. He issues the most theatrical command to human resources, insisting they handle Ada's dismissal without delay and cut all connections. In a delightfully disorderly subplot, Aunt Yasmin discovers a positive pregnancy test, sparking the most amusing mix-up conceivable. Concurrently, Allie presents a marvelous proposition to Celine, inviting her to manage the firm's new cafe division, which she joyfully agrees to. The lingering strain between Bora and Ada is completely palpable when they all gather for a game of basketball. Now unemployed, Ada secures a job serving tables at a conventional eatery, a genuinely humbling new chapter. Bora, in a maneuver that is simultaneously harsh and clever, discovers her place of employment and intentionally reserves a vital business meal there. The patrons he accompanies are lauding the superb prose of Ada Tozen, completely unaware that the gifted writer is the same individual pouring their water. Tucha offers the most scathing and scornful comment, stating the writer went back to her proper place, and you can almost feel Ada's spirit crack. The episode concludes on a stunning cliffhanger as Bora faces Ada, compelling her to weepingly confess she told him a falsehood so immense she is mortified to meet his gaze, leaving us all hanging. The episode begins with a supremely tense moment as Ada finally summons the fortitude to confess her deceptions to Bora. She stands in his office, her heart positively hammering as she starts to recount the fateful choice she made 3 entire years ago. You can feel the palpable gravity of her reluctance, which is greatly amplified by Bora's growing and blatant restlessness. Then she drops an astonishing revelation. She never completed her university degree, having only finished high school. It is a truly staggering and raw admission, disclosing she departed with only 3 semesters left to complete.
Bora's reaction is one of sheer, undiluted rage and crushing disillusionment. His expression is simply heartbreaking to witness. He reminds her with incredible harshness that just yesterday she stood on a collegiate stage advising students to follow their dreams. It is the exact institution she herself forsook, a fact he uses to inflict the deepest possible wound. Ada frantically attempts to convey that she longed to reveal the truth many times before, but events always thwarted her intentions. His lecture about integrity and trust is incredibly severe, utterly disregarding any of her intricate emotions or reasons. In a moment of ultimate unfairness, he produces her Games of Destiny article and charges her with literary theft, which is absolutely preposterous. He declines to accept that she could have penned something so magnificent, totally shattering her morale with his skepticism. Then, in a spirit-crushing act, he revokes the lovely pen he gifted her, a symbol of all her broken aspirations. He proclaims it was intended for someone with genuine ability, not a fabricator, which is the most devastating remark he could have possibly uttered. The showdown culminates when he informs her he never wants to lay eyes on her again, a declaration that lands with visceral force. Yet, amidst her anguish, a potent resolve emerges, and she swears to demonstrate that every single one of her articles is her own creation. Meanwhile, Ada's family provides the most lovely and touching demonstration of support one could imagine. Ali attempts to be the advocate for sense, suggesting to Bora that he is being excessively severe and perhaps transferring his own conflicts onto Ada. But Bora remains utterly resolute, declaring that an individual is either truthful or they are not, leaving no allowance for fallibility. Feeling as though she has nothing further to forfeit, Ada confronts Ruzgar with the most clever and audacious demand imaginable. She insists he persuade Tuche to reinstate her as an assistant, or she will unveil their entire sham marriage to the world. Ruzgar is then compelled to convene with Tuche, and when she expectedly declines, he reveals his greatest bargaining chip. He vows to unmask her as the one who divulged the eatery security video from the premiere episode, a stroke of sheer brilliance. Faced with this stunning coercion, Tuche has no alternative but to concede, paving the way for the most delightfully uncomfortable office reunion ever. The following morning, Ada strides back into that office with a victorious expression on her face, and it is a truly splendid instance of success. Tuche stages a comically insincere performance, feigning a desire to offer Ada a second chance out of pure benevolence. Bora's fury upon seeing Ada back at work is positively epic. You can sense his ire from a great distance. He immediately issues a frightening fresh proposition. If Ada triumphs, she remains, but if she falters, both she and Tuche will be dismissed. The stakes are now incredibly elevated, as Tuche's whole career is linked to the achievements of the person she despises above all others. Bora then assigns Ada a task that seems completely unachievable: to secure an interview with the notoriously elusive singer Kuzey Bati by the following day. This is a very shrewd strategy because it compels Tuche to actively assist Ada or else jeopardize her own employment. In a startling twist, Tuche actually leverages her contacts to locate the singer, but they are deceived by an imposter agent. Bora takes great satisfaction in announcing their misstep, confirming that the authentic Kuze Bata was in a completely different location. Just as every expectation fades, Ada and Tuche have a most fortuitous meeting, physically bumping into the authentic Kuze Bata in the woods. Ha! Ada's sharp intellect is truly magnificent as she impersonates a transportation official to isolate him for a private conversation. Her incredibly daring and imaginative approach thoroughly captivates the musician, who admiringly consents to the interview then and there. The interview proceeds exceptionally well, but Kuze Bata's focused fascination with Ada is making Bora noticeably and deeply uneasy. When Kuze Bati invites Ada to a party, she accepts Ada's sheer defiance, and Bora's envy skyrockets into high gear. He demands that Tucci accompany her, obviously attempting to veil his possessive sentiments with professional concern. The gathering is a total ordeal of affectation, and Kuze Bata's conduct becomes increasingly improper. He even performs an absurdly bold tune he composed just for Ada, making his amorous designs painfully and transparently clear. The whole affair finally detonates when Bora and Ruzgar unexpectedly arrive at the event, leading to the most monumental showdown to date. A tremendous scuffle erupts between Bora and Kuze Bati, a sensational altercation fueled by raw, unvarnished envy. They succeed in subduing the singer and his security, making the most theatrical and tumultuous departure one could possibly envision. Later, in an incredibly soft and serene instance, Ada delicately tends to a graze on Bora's forehead from the altercation. The unvoiced emotions between them in that instant are so potent they are palpably electrifying the atmosphere. Ada's marvelously insightful Aunt Nergis instantly grasps that the scuffle was rooted in envy, even if Ada attempts to refute it. The episode concludes with Uncle Zephyr offering Bora some genuinely deep insight about love, cautioning him that resisting it will only result in ruin. The saga kicks off with an incredibly daring maneuver from Ada, who brazenly plucks a ring directly from Bora's hand. She concocts a deeply moving story, professing that this exquisite ring was a cherished heirloom from her adored grandmother. You will be astonished by what unfolds. Her Aunt Yasemin catches the whole exchange and grows profoundly inquisitive about the supposed family treasure. Ada is plunged into a sheer state of terror because she knows the jewelry bears an inscription that will reveal her fabrication in an instant. In an act of pure desperation, she flashes the ring at Yasemin for a mere fraction of a second, jiggling it so wildly that reading the engraving is out of the question. By an astonishing stroke of fortune, Yasemin is without her reading glasses, yet she stays extremely doubtful about the whole affair. What ensues is a truly tormenting battle for Ada as she attempts frantically to make the ornament vanish permanently. She attempts yanking and turning, but the ring is totally, immovably fixed on her finger as if by some mystical power. Amid her rising exasperation, she even resorts to soap and water, but absolutely nothing succeeds in liberating her from this sparkling snare. Finally, in a last frantic effort, she tosses the ring into an ornamental vase, hoping it will remain hidden from curious eyes forever. Subsequently, in a most fateful turn of irony, Yasemin is tidying the home and unintentionally shatters that very same treasured vessel. As the container bursts into countless fragments, she uncovers the ring nestled among the gleaming slivers of pottery.
She retrieves it, and borrowing her son-in-law's spectacles, she can at last read the engraving with impeccable clarity. The words Ruzgar and Ada come into view, and Yasemin is consumed by a stunning and justified fury at the unmasking of this deception. Without a single moment's delay, she marches into the company, resolute in confronting Ruzgar and insistent on an answer. Upon challenging him, something truly unforeseen occurs. Ruzgar does not refute a single accusation. Instead, he collapses into the most poignant and gut-wrenching admission you could ever witness. He tearfully confesses his profound love for Ada, his desire to wed her, and that he presented her with that ring as a token of his proposal. His candor is so visceral and potent that Yasemin is utterly touched by his authentic sorrow and deep affection for her niece. This inspires the most unbelievable alliance as Yasemin unites with Tuğçe in a complex and ingenious plot. They are completely resolved that no other aide will ever take Ada's place by Bora's side. In concert, they methodically purloin and dispose of the records for every single suitable assistant applicant from the firm's archives. Their subterfuge is so wonderfully successful that the only lingering candidates are comically and utterly unfit for the position. Of course, Bora is thoroughly underwhelmed by the dreadful applicants and dismisses them all. Yet just as their strategy appears to be a stunning triumph, an incredible predicament materializes. A woman named Meltem, a girlhood neighbor of Bora's kin, emerges and instantly captivates everyone's focus. She not only charms Bora's affections, but more significantly secures the immediate and fervent endorsement of his mother, Belma. Belma views Meltem as the ideal, heaven-sent answer for removing Ada from her son's world permanently. She loses not a moment, promptly escorting Meltem to the office and leveraging her sway to get her appointed as Bora's new personal aide. Both Ada and Tuğçe instantly perceive Belma's tactical play and are profoundly disturbed by the instant, effortless rapport between Meltem and Bora. Ada's gut feeling declares that something is dreadfully amiss, a sentiment that is validated during a family meal. She eavesdrops on Meltem during a secret phone conversation and unearths the most disquieting details. It appears as though Meltem has penetrated the firm and the residence like some sort of industrial agent with a secret motive. The dialogue heavily implies she is relaying her advancements to an unidentified individual, and it is absolutely spine-tingling. Nevertheless, Meltem is exceptionally perceptive and discerns that Ada has been monitoring her confidential call. In a truly masterful and sly maneuver, she lays a trap by leaving her phone in the restroom after organizing for a particular message to be delivered. Ada's overpowering inquisitiveness overcomes her, and she walks directly into Meltem's snare, attempting frantically to access the phone to view the text. When Meltem comes back to discover Ada with her device, a heated and fierce showdown ignites between them. From all this turmoil, Bora reaches the most distressingly simple conclusion: Ada is simply envious of his new aide. Ada passionately refutes being envious, attempting to articulate her valid and frightening worries about Meltem's conduct. But Bora flatly refuses to listen, causing a substantial and wrenching divide between them that seems nearly insurmountable. He becomes progressively exasperated with what he perceives as Ada's thoroughly unprofessional and trivial antics.
Simultaneously, the most moving and heartfelt predicament is unfolding with little Elif, who is on the verge of starting school. Having been brought up by her grandparents, she feels unlike the others and is petrified of addressing questions about her mother and father.
Ada, comprehending this ache from her own youth, devotes time to tenderly persuading the young girl to be courageous. She even fashions a unique dress for Elif from her own garments, making the child feel utterly gorgeous and self-assured. On the initial day of classes, however, Ada's gravest anxieties are realized when a peer heartlessly taunts Elif about her parents residing in the heavens. Wounded and protective, Elif shoves the classmate, and the school headmaster summons her guardians for a conference. Per Elif's explicit wish, both Ada and Bora arrive at the school jointly, operating as a unit to champion her. In a different story arc, Evren experiences the most stunning metamorphosis and comes back to the firm as his authentic self. Everyone is utterly astonished to behold this new, dashing, and unbelievably polished version of him. But this disclosure leads to Yasemin unearthing the most crushing act of treachery conceivable. She catches a discussion and ascertains that Evren was never championing Ada, but was instead vigorously aiding Tucha's quest for Bora the entire time. To make matters worse, she discovers the sham engagement was completely Evren's brainchild, contrived to influence Bora's notions. Feeling thoroughly deceived by these calculating ploys, Yasemin concludes she is absolutely done with Evren and severs all communication. In the meantime, Ada is more resolute than ever to validate her suspicions regarding Meltem. She secures the assistance of Tucci and Aslan, and collectively, they opt to probe the enigmatic phone number that contacted Meltem. In a truly brilliant clandestine operation, Tucci and Aslan pose as a betrothed pair and visit the location they track down. They ascertain from an artisan that he performed work on Meltem's residence a full 6 months prior, which is an astounding revelation. Ada grasps that this is the conclusive evidence because Meltem had expressly informed everyone she came back to Turkey just 2 months ago. This chronological inconsistency is the irrefutable proof Ada requires to finally unmask Meltem as an absolute fraud. She readies herself to present Bora with this indisputable evidence, poised for her moment of triumphant justification. Yet just as she is on the brink of disclosing everything, the most incriminating and stunning spectacle materializes before her very eyes, rendering her completely silent. The episode ignites with an electrifying scenario as Ada seeks a simple hairdryer at Bora's residence. Abruptly, in a moment of utter disbelief, Meltem emerges from the bathroom clad only in a bathrobe, and you can sense Ada's entire world shattering. Bora tries to clarify that Meltem was merely showering after an emotional upset, but the raw intimacy of the scene is excruciating for Ada to behold. Displaying her trademark cleverness, Ada instantly cuts the bower to the home, ingeniously thwarting Meltem's attempt to use the hairdryer. Later, at the meal, Ada and Tucha unite for a spectacular act of sabotage, rigging the air conditioning to assail Meltem with icy air. Bora even cautions Meltem to change seats, but she disregards him, resulting in a delightfully gratifying and severe neck cramp. Meltem then attempts to charm Bora with fabricated childhood anecdotes, but Ada perceives the utter hollowness of her performance.
The atmosphere grows palpably tense as Ada caustically questions Meltem about her flimsy excuse for using the shower in Bara's home. Returning to the residence, it becomes deeply exasperating when Bora's own mother, Belma, starts doting on the conniving Meltem as a prospective daughter-in-law. Then, in a stroke of deliciously malicious irony, Aunt Nergis administers a supposed massage that is clearly intended to aggravate her ailment tenfold. It is utterly maddening to see the entire family wait on this corporate interloper while our heroic Ada must witness the iniquity. Employing her feigned injury as a brilliant guise, Meltem executes her boldest maneuver yet by attempting to purloin passwords from Bora's computer and safe. In a pulse-quickening development, Tuche intercepts Meltem on a phone call, finally verifying she is an operative for a competitor. This provides profound vindication for Ada, demonstrating her powerful intuition was unerringly accurate from the start. Ada then becomes a formidable sleuth, visiting a locksmith to unearth secrets about Meltem's history. She discovers a wonderfully revealing detail. Meltem allegedly misplaces her keys 3 times a week, much to her husband's exasperation. What Ada is unaware of is that Bora is discreetly trailing her, observing her masterful investigative work up close. Ada then remarkably persuades Bora to join her at Meltem's apartment, where they masquerade as couriers in a truly inspired scheme. Once inside, Ada uncovers the irrefutable evidence right beneath the bed, Bora's highly confidential company flash drive. Although Bora feigns ignorance, his eyes betray his full comprehension of its meaning, and he retrieves the device. Later, in a wonderfully gratifying revelation, Bora's father Zafar discloses he had already investigated and verified that Meltem is a corporate mole. But this is where the narrative takes an exceptionally merciless and psychological twist beyond all expectation. Bara devises a deeply intricate test for Ada, informing her it is Meltem's birthday and that he requires her help to arrange a romantic dinner. He even brings Ada dress shopping, compelling her to model a breathtaking black gown that he professes is a present for Meltem. Can you possibly comprehend the heart-wrenching anguish Ada must have suffered while aiding the man she loves to court the woman she loathes? He orchestrates these painfully personal moments, assisting her with zippers and clasps, all while she believes it is for her chief adversary. Justifiably enraged, Ada and Tuche concoct a magnificent retaliation plot centered around Meltem's acute allergy to lavender. They thoroughly douse the beautiful garment in lavender oil, guaranteeing Meltem will experience an extreme allergic response. The plan succeeds flawlessly as the moment Meltem dons the dress, her face puffs up and is covered in prominent red splotches. In place of a romantic meal, Bora hosts a large gathering, delivering a speech that ironically extols Meltem for her alleged integrity. When he presents her with a simple company pen, Ada finally loses her composure and physically confronts Meltem in a stunning eruption of fury. She wipes Meltem's face before the entire assembly, revealing the allergic reaction was mere cosmetics and that she is a total charlatan. Then arrives the greatest stunner of the episode. Bora rises and calmly confesses he was aware of Meltem's espionage all along.
We discover through a poignant flashback that Meltem only engaged in espionage because her father is gravely ill and she was in dire need of funds. However, Bora's actual motive is unveiled to be something far more personal and crushingly harsh toward our Ada. He clarifies to Ada that this whole agonizing charade was in fact a sophisticated lesson about the repercussions of her own deceptions. He confesses the special company pen was intended for her all along, but her dishonesty made it impossible for him to believe her warnings about Meltem. Ada is left absolutely devastated, comprehending this was never about justice, but about chastising her in the most mentally savage manner. He did not merely break a pen, he profoundly fractured her heart and faith in him, leaving their future in total disarray. The episode opens with a breathtaking pursuit as an enraged Bora chases Ada, and the atmosphere is absolutely electric with tension. Ada is rightfully seething with fury, confronting Bora over his completely maddening hypocrisy. Honestly, is it not astounding how severe he was with her, yet so forgiving of Meltem's absolute treachery? Then, during this monumental clash, something utterly heart-wrenching occurs. Ada's cherished car, Goonish, suddenly stalls. This automobile represents far more than just transport. It is a powerful emblem of her personal odyssey and freedom. We discover through poignant flashbacks that she located Goonish discarded and damaged, but perceived its wonderful spirit beneath the grime. Ada held several positions, conserving every last cent to acquire this car, which transformed into her staunchest ally and confidant. Therefore, when Bora organizes for a recovery vehicle, it is an unexpectedly gentle gesture amid all the turmoil. Simultaneously, a peculiar and captivating storyline develops at home as Aslan sustains a dreadful blow to the head. The situation is both heartbreaking and comically absurd as he develops short-term memory loss and fails to identify anyone. It is simply incredible, but he regresses to an innocent disposition and truly thinks that Bora's mother, Belma, is his own maternal figure. His spouse, Nergis, is utterly devastated, observing the man she adores gaze at her as if she were an unfamiliar person. The family's efforts to heal him with traditional cures like onions and garlic are so poignantly earnest and touching. The predicament hits a startling peak when Aslan meets Evren in the garden, and Evren totally misinterprets the entire scene. Believing Aslan has designs on Yasemin, Evren grows incredibly furious and launches a physical assault against him. Yet, in the most astounding turn of events imaginable, the impact from the tumble miraculously brings his recollections back. It is miraculous, for he abruptly remembers Nergis, yet now he is completely incensed with Evren for the attack. Next, we must discuss the most altruistic display of camaraderie imaginable, because Selen's actions are simply remarkable. She happens to hear Bora insisting that Ada reveal her previous marriage to Ali, a disclosure that would ruin it all. In a display of sheer, undiluted devotion, Selene performs the greatest act of self-denial for her dearest companion. Dissolving into tears, frightened yet determined, she informs Ali that she was the one in the marriage of convenience. It is a truly crushing moment, as she has never been dishonest with him previously, and you can witness her spirit fracturing with each syllable. Ali is utterly broken, not only by the falsehood, but by the duration she concealed such a monumental truth from him. Their entire bond now dangles by the most delicate strand, and the anticipation is just agonizing. In parallel, Ruzgar is exposing himself as the most conniving and sinister schemer conceivable. He engineers a highly visible separation from Tuche, which is a clever but callous tactical maneuver to shape perceptions. His true concealed agenda is far more wicked. He intends to return to Ada, exploiting what he perceives as her boundless affection. Then he unleashes the most colossal revelation. He is extorting Tuche, using her complicity in the video affair as leverage. His ultimatum is exceptionally bold, as he expects her to arrange his promotion to lead the graphics division. When she objects, he icily instructs her to just make it happen, revealing his absolute void of morality. In a stroke of dramatic irony, Ada presumes their split is genuine and asks Bora to help them get back together. Her initial effort is a visit to a boxing club, which misfires in the most magnificent way possible. Tuche, channeling all her accumulated fury, actually renders the deceitful Ruzgar unconscious during their match. Undaunted, Ada then arranges a sophisticated dinner at her residence, luring both of them into attending. The ambiance is exceptionally strained and uncomfortable, with neither individual wishing to be present. The instant Ada and Bora exit, the reality surfaces in a heated dispute centered on the promotion, not romance. Concluding they must oust the current department director, Ada and Tuche devise a bold nocturnal office infiltration. It is a wonderfully suspenseful and humorous sequence, particularly when Tuche feigns being mugged to deceive the security officer. They access Alp's computer and make the most amazing find. He has been seeking employment elsewhere. Leveraging this discovery, they expertly orchestrate for him to receive a proposition he cannot possibly decline. The scheme succeeds flawlessly, and when Alp tenders his resignation, Bora unwittingly elevates Ruzgar, falling directly into his malevolent trap. Throughout this saga, the bond between Bora and Ada strengthens in the most lovely fashion. Bora attempts to instruct her with a staged car pilfering, but he completely misreads her emotional response. He is taken aback when he witnesses her authentic despair and anguish over the loss of Gunesh. Acknowledging he went much too far, he admits his ruse, prompting a profound exchange of mutual comprehension between them. They recognize the pain they have inflicted on one another and resolve to proceed as genuine equals, which is wonderful. The most amorous progression, however, unfolds when they enjoy cotton candy by the ocean. The romantic chemistry is utterly palpable as Bora offers her a piece and their faces move tantalizingly near. It is a spellbinding near-kiss scene that hints at so much more for their shared destiny. Later, in an exhibition of surprising openness, Bora discloses to his cousin Ali that he has been having visions of Ada. He confesses to sensing a potent envy when she is absent, which is an enormous breakthrough for him. Bora then finds Selin and Ali in what appears to be a profoundly dramatic showdown, with Selin forcefully demanding a divorce. But then, in an astonishing and comical turn of events, Selin seemingly abducts Ali using pepper spray directly in front of the photo studio. This utterly chaotic incident is witnessed by Pirrell, and you must hear how this tale gets warped into something wildly unbelievable through the office grapevine.
It practically morphs into a preposterous rumor that Ada abducted Bora, which is the most comical misconception I have ever encountered.
It is revealed, however, that this whole affair was a magnificently clever scheme orchestrated by Selin and Ali to unite our favorite couple. They spirit Ada and Bora away to a beautifully secluded hotel managed by the enigmatic sister Shahiba, where ideally timed problems begin to emerge. First, the water supply is abruptly cut, compelling Bora and Ali to retrieve water from a mosque in pails, which is a fantastically classic premise for drama. Then, as if by pure enchantment, the electricity also fails, immersing everything in the dreamiest candlelit ambiance you could ever envision. This naturally pushes Ada and Bora into beautifully close situations, including sharing a room and spending cherished time alone together beneath the stars. Bora even must chivalrously assist Ada when she is stranded in the shower without water, and the romantic tension is simply electrifying. And then, my dear, the moment we have all anticipated finally arrives. They share their very first kiss at dawn, and it is absolutely and profoundly stunning. While this enchanting romance is at last blossoming, their families are in a total state of utter panic back at home. In a scene of sheer, unfiltered pandemonium, both Aunt Belma and Aunt Yasemin contact the police, each accusing the other family of a dreadful abduction. This situation intensifies so spectacularly that Ada and Bora are actually placed on a wanted list. And honestly, can you fathom the scale of this predicament? In another truly shattering turn of events, Aunt Yasemin overhears a chat and uncovers Ada's secret marriage to Ruzgar. She is entirely and utterly heartbroken because of their family's 5-generation curse, which foretells that you will perish unhappily if you do not end up with your first love. Yasemin then presents Ada with a soul-crushing ultimatum, insisting she stay away from Bora and remain with Ruzgar to evade this awful destiny. Just when you believe your heart cannot possibly endure any more, Bora organizes the most splendid and amorous dinner for Ada on a secluded beach. He discloses that he knows all her little quirks, demonstrating just how profoundly he has fallen for her, and it is genuinely the most endearing gesture. She is wailing, "Why, Ada?" berating herself for her choices in a moment of utter desolation. You can feel the immense pressure she is under, torn between her genuine affection for Bora and the enormous deception of her marriage to Ruzgar. So, in a truly bold maneuver, Ada resolves to persuade Bora of her family's alleged misfortune. She cleverly engineers the entire situation by the pool, offering him cotton candy to create a disarming atmosphere. Then she intentionally triggers his phone and feigns total alarm when he ignores it, claiming a professional crisis. In the resultant pandemonium of her making, they both end up plunging into the water in a dramatic fashion. Ada immediately capitalizes on the opportunity, declaring theatrically that this is the jinx at work and that they were nearly submerged. The next day at the office is buzzing with energy due to rumors concerning flowers Bora sent her. Bora, in a stunning display of authority, assembles the entire staff to make a formal announcement. He announces with unwavering assurance that the flowers are from him, publicly affirming their connection for all to witness.
Meanwhile, the domestic turmoil is escalating to a fever pitch, and it is unbelievably fraught. Ada's Aunt Nergis, oblivious to the truth, schedules a rendezvous with Ruzgar to discuss Ada's purported first romance.
Then comes a crucial corporate venture with a client from the Lord of Fire Company that has the potential to alter their future.
This is where Ada's talent for mayhem comes into full view as she resolves to undermine the whole meeting. She severs the electricity to the entire building just before the presentation, immersing everyone in total blackness.
Bara becomes ensnared in the elevator, the generator fails to activate, and Ada feigns the same level of astonishment as the others.
Just when you think things have reached peak absurdity, the reserve power unit bursts into flames. But Ada, in a moment of sheer ingenious inspiration, extinguishes the fire and transforms the calamity into a victory.
She informs the astonished client that this was a deliberate exhibition showcasing control over flames for their Lord of Fire concept.
The ploy is so incredibly shrewd that it succeeds, and she secures the deal all on her own. You just knew the envious Tuche would not overlook this, and her inquiry is frighteningly systematic. She unearths the fact that Ada and Ruzgar share legal counsel for their separation, which is a colossal warning sign. Then she requests current national identification from everyone, a tactic aimed directly at unveiling their hidden union. Bora, perceptive as ever, pieces the puzzle together by reviewing the surveillance video. He witnesses firsthand that Ada was the one who caused the outage, and the discovery is simply crushing. He faces her directly, revealing his full awareness of her ploys to deceive him with the tale of misfortune. Events take a genuinely strange twist when Bora and Ali stumble upon an actual theft but mistake it for another of Ada's intricate plots. They unwittingly assist the culprit in transporting their own pilfered possessions. It is a supremely comical and ironic scene. After grasping the reality, Bora valiantly pursues the thief and battles him to retrieve their cherished ancestral treasures. But then, in a brilliant feat of deception, he and Ali arrive home adorned with exaggerated false dressings to elicit Ada's concern. Ada, totally taken in by the ruse, becomes the most attentive and anxious caregiver imaginable. Just as they share a deeply personal exchange, Bora discloses the fabrication of his wounds, leading to a major showdown over their respective falsehoods. And right then, at the height of this sentimental turmoil, comes a fateful rap on the door. It is an agent from immigration, and as Ada stands rooted to the spot, Bora calls from inside, "Darling, who came?" The episode concludes on a truly pulse-pounding cliffhanger, with their whole charade on the verge of being exposed by a solitary term of endearment. The episode begins with an electrifying shock as Salal Bey makes a completely unexpected appearance at Bora's home. I was utterly stunned when Bora emerged and tenderly called Ada my love, completely oblivious to the immense pressure saturating the air. Ada's sharp wit under duress was truly inspired as she cleverly dispatched Bora on a fabricated cookie mission to secure a private word with Salal.
What follows is a truly heart-rending confession where Ada courageously discloses the whole shattering reality of Ruthgar's betrayal. It was profoundly touching to hear her recount how he demolished her aspirations and that she is at last pursuing a legal separation. Salal's response was marvelously defensive. He vowed to safeguard her confidence, while his rage toward Ruzgar was almost tangible. Simultaneously, your heart goes out to poor Evren, who is on a truly frantic quest to reunite with Yasemin. Selin devises an exceptionally brilliant psychological strategy, employing a pursue the one who flees tactic that is just so wonderfully shrewd. The plan works marvelously, and it is deeply gratifying to see Yasemin grow progressively more envious and curious about Evren's seeming detachment. Ada subsequently gets some genuinely marvelous news from the immigration authorities, bringing an immense and welcome sense of reprieve. Her attorney delivers even more amazing information, affirming the separation can be concluded in one uncomplicated court hearing the following months. But goodness me, the strain from her aunts and their unyielding fixation on destiny is a perpetual source of anxiety. Next, a truly wicked partnership starts to materialize between the exceptionally sly Ruzgar and the scheming Tuche. Ruzgar's scheme is fiendishly clever, suggesting they collaborate to covertly sabotage Ada and Bora's connection from within. They commence their treacherous plot during a group meal, expertly guiding the dialogue to provoke exasperating disputes between our beloved pair. The conspiracy then escalates in a truly stunning fashion when Tuche pilfers Bora's identification card directly from his phone. I remain in disbelief that she deduced his passcode, 4 threes, and then possessed the audacity to dispatch Ada for coffee while she executed the deed. Ruzgar concludes the villainous act by placing the purloined ID at Ada's residence, arranging the ultimate and most ruinous snare. Aunt Nergis's volcanic fury upon discovering the ID is completely petrifying, and your heart aches for Ada in that incredibly potent scene. In retaliation, Ada orchestrates a magnificently dramatic public quarrel with Bora, mounting a spectacular performance for all at the office. She creates a huge theatrical display of gathering her belongings and terminating their bond, which left me utterly captivated. But afterward, in confidence, she unveils the most stunning revelation. It is all a detailed charade to appease her enraged relatives. Bora's father shows himself to be the most perceptive parent imaginable, kindly disclosing that he had already guessed the separation was a total fabrication. Despite their feigned separation, Bora persists in being the ultimate romantic with his astonishingly clandestine overtures. He organizes for exquisite shoes and a gorgeous gown to reach her through these intricate, enchanting deliveries. Regrettably, their private discussion is intercepted by the office busybody who promptly circulates the incredible report that they remain a couple. In a genuinely stunning finale, both sets of relatives uncover the reality and descend upon the pair just after their clandestine romantic meal. The chapter concludes on a tremendously tense cliffhanger with Ada and Bora trapped in the downpour, their wonderful secret at last revealed to their irate families. The episode ignites with an electrifying pursuit you have to see to believe as Belma, Nergis, and Yasemin speed toward Bara's home in a cab. They are driven by Tucha's spiteful information, entirely certain they are moments from catching Ada and Bora together. Yet in a breathtaking display of sheer ingenuity, our resourceful Ada executes a daring escape through a window mere moments before they storm inside. Tragically, however, she unintentionally leaves behind her footwear and a deeply significant necklace. Upon finding these belongings, the ants promptly fabricate the most shocking tale, presuming Bora brought another woman home at once. Yasemin's boldness is truly astonishing as she swipes Ada's necklace, intending to use it as conclusive evidence of Bora's alleged philandering. By the following morning, this entirely false narrative has circulated like wildfire, and everyone sorrowfully concludes Bora is a callous womanizer. Meanwhile, Ada's unsuspecting family remains in the dark, thinking she is resting quietly at home after her apparent heartache. Bora is simply crushed by these harsh allegations, his spirit aching from the sheer unfairness of the situation. He courageously faces Nergiz and Aslan, ardently defending his honor and declaring his deep, steadfast love for Ada. With immense urgency in his tone, he repeatedly inquires about Ada's enigmatic first love, desperate to comprehend this shadow from her history. Nergiz spins a story about a decent, industrious man who still adores Ada, sowing perilous seeds of doubt in Bora's mind. Then, in a truly inopportune turn of events, Ada's divorce attorney suddenly reveals she is getting wed and taking a month-long leave. The practice's proprietor, an exceptionally charismatic man named Turgut Ashkin, intervenes to handle Ada's case himself. You will be astonished, but he is immediately smitten with Ada and invites her to a remarkably pricey restaurant to review the case. Naturally, he uses this appointment to flirt so brazenly and overtly that it makes our dear Ada feel distinctly uneasy. Bora chances to phone Ada during this meal, and his thoughts instantly swirl with mistrust when he learns she is with a companion. In a move that can only be called a stroke of magnificently flawed brilliance, Bora confronts Turgut after Ada departs the establishment. He grows utterly certain that this debonair attorney must be the initial love whom Nergiz depicted so vividly. Thus, in his most stunning decision to date, Bora actually employs Turgut as the corporation's new legal advisor, cementing this colossal error in judgment. This tremendous blunder is further cemented when Bora catches Ada requesting Turgut not to disclose their divorce proceedings to anybody, particularly him. Bora then arranges the most theatrical dinner gathering imaginable, inviting Turgut, Nergiz, and Aslan to finally address this entire predicament. In a stroke of timing so flawless it must be destiny, Tuche and Ruzgar appear at the very same dining establishment. The atmosphere becomes utterly charged when Bora gazes directly at Nergiz and questions if Turgut is Ada's initial love. Nergiz, in a truly untenable spot with the actual first love seated mere feet away, utters a heart-shattering falsehood and affirms that yes, it is Turgut. And can you imagine? Ada walks in at that exact agonizing moment to overhear her aunt's crushing deception. The whole evening dissolves into complete mayhem, with irate allegations soaring and feelings reaching their highest intensity. Ada, feeling entirely cornered, fiercely validates the falsehood about Turgut, but maintains she has no affection for him now, which is just so poignant. The night concludes in utter catastrophe, with Aslan collapsing from the strain and Bora physically striking Turgut. Still, in spite of this incredible calamity, Bora's determination to be with Ada fortifies more than ever. He makes the wonderfully romantic choice to propose and sets out to purchase the most breathtakingly gorgeous engagement ring imaginable. In an act of pure desperation, Belma contacts Tucha for assistance, unwittingly triggering a calamitous sequence of events. Tuche, driven by purpose, looks into Turgut, and through a fiery showdown with Rizgar, she at last uncovers the final jaw-dropping truth. Rizgar is Ada's husband. She then proceeds to Ada's residence and confronts her with this life-altering revelation, wielding all the control. Tucha issues the most merciless and deliberate ultimatum conceivable, compelling Ada to select between two agonizing, unbearable choices. She requires that Ada must not only separate from Bora, but also do so in a manner that will make him utterly despise her for all time. And then, at the most tension-filled instant imaginable, the chime of the doorbell echoes through the flat. It is Bora's whole family waiting just outside with lovely flowers and chocolates, fully prepared to formally request Ada's hand in matrimony. The episode opens with a truly astonishing moment as Bora's entire family appears at Ada's residence without any warning whatsoever. Make no mistake, their purpose is a formal betrothal, as they intend to request Ada's hand for Bora. The most theatrical aspect is that Ada is utterly oblivious to the situation. She is in a condition of complete bewilderment. Initially, no one in Ada's household grasps the reason for their presence, cultivating a magnificently uncomfortable ambiance. It is only when Aunt Nergis discreetly consults with Uncle Aslan that he comprehends their intention is to secure a bride. The misunderstanding then escalates to a fantastically comical climax when everyone incorrectly presumes they are seeking Selen's hand. The illusion of confusion shatters the moment Zephyr at last delivers the momentous official declaration for everyone present. He declares, "By the will of God, transmitted by the prophet, we ask for the hand of our daughter Ada for our son Bora." The jolt that surges through the room is incredibly tangible. Ada's relatives are left utterly speechless. Aunt Nergis is particularly distraught, crying out, "What is this about Ada? What is this about Bora?" in sheer astonishment. In a splendidly courageous display, Bora rises and openly affirms their deep affection for one another, defying all opposition. Following that, in a turn of events that will render you silent, Ada declines his offer of marriage before the entire assembly. She gazes directly at him and states, "No, Bora, I cannot marry you." And my heart simply broke into a million pieces. She clarifies that she lacks the strength to struggle against everyone opposed to their union, a truly heartbreaking reality. This open refusal brings an immense sense of disgrace upon Bora's family, particularly his enraged mother, Belma. The matter deteriorates further when the truth emerges that Ada covertly went to Bora's home the previous evening. This one disclosure of her dishonesty utterly demolishes the small amount of faith her Aunt Nergis still held. Feeling thoroughly deceived by the falsehoods, Aunt Nergis insists that Ada resign from her position at the firm without delay. Right when Ada is prepared to capitulate and step down, an unbelievably fortunate phone call for Bora alters the entire course of events. The call is from the esteemed Gurgen Foundation, informing them of a nomination for a wonderful new honor. In a surprising development, both Ada and Tucha find themselves contenders in the Best Social Media Writers category. Consequently, they are now rivals, which provides Ada with the ideal justification for remaining at her job for the time being. Shortly thereafter, the award patrons, a wonderfully charming senior couple named Farhat and Shireen, arrive at the office. This pair represents the very essence of deep devotion, having shared a joyful marriage for 41 remarkable years. Farhat's affection is so profound that he legally altered his name from Tevfik simply to emulate the fabled romantic hero from their namesake story. However, Farhat then makes a dreadfully ill-conceived remark about affection transforming into companionship with the passing of years. Shirin is completely crushed by his words, perceiving them as a sign that their spectacular romance is over. She departs in a rage, announcing that their attorneys will be in contact, which places the whole competition in peril. A frantic Bora instantly holds Ada responsible for the dispute and issues her a formidable challenge. He informs her she has precisely 1 day to reunite the pair, otherwise she will forfeit the contest permanently. Ada, with her future at stake, ingeniously persuades the couple to gather at a restaurant for a discussion. Her strategy nearly unravels, but she rescues the situation with a moving, sincere speech on how their romance fueled her own faith in lasting affection. Meanwhile, as Ada acts as a mediator, the nefarious Tucha is concocting her most diabolical scheme to date. She has been covertly corresponding with Bora online, posing as his perfect match in a feat of utter deception. Once the contest theme is announced as blind date, Tucha spies a genuinely wicked chance to sabotage Ada. She masterfully tricks an unsuspecting Ada into a supposed research outing, arranging a rendezvous with a menacing individual. Ada is plunged into a frightening predicament at a secluded cafe when the man turns hostile and secures the exit. Her loved ones grow frantic when she becomes unreachable, but fortunately, the valiant Bara pinpoints her whereabouts. Like a champion of justice, Bora smashes into the cafe and directly challenges the man, saving Ada from a perilous ordeal. He is, justifiably, immensely angered with Ada for undertaking such a frightening and needless gamble. Afterward, Bora heads to the corporate terrace, at last prepared to encounter the enigmatic perfect match from his online chats. He gets there to discover not an unknown person, but Tuche, who confesses she was his secret correspondent all along. Tuche proceeds to admit her hidden, long-standing affection for Bora, distorting every fact to portray Ada as a villain. In a concluding, cruel act of treachery, Tucha unveils the complete, heartbreaking scope of Ada's role in the ruse. The disclosure that Ada assisted in engineering the whole masquerade utterly decimates Bora's heart and confidence. In a culminating and soul-crushing showdown, Bora yells at Ada to take her falsehoods and vanish from his existence permanently. Bara just discovered the shocking truth that Tugcha was his ideal woman online, and he is absolutely furious. He unleashes a torrent of anguish and betrayal upon Ada, heatedly questioning what she hoped to achieve with such a callous and intricate lie. In a breathtaking flash of unbridled fury, he terminates her employment and exiles her from his world, his business, and his residence.
Although completely crushed by his pronouncement, Ada's remarkable and steadfast spirit refuses to be shattered. She promptly turns to the one individual she trusts can assist her, the wonderfully benevolent Uncle Zephyr. Ada unburdens her soul to him, earnestly begging him to intercede because this position has become her entire world. Her tangible anguish in this deeply poignant moment is powerful enough to persuade Uncle Zephyr to champion her cause. The following day delivers a family clash so incredibly fraught with tension it will leave you holding your breath. Uncle Zephyr strategically appears at the office with the precious Elif, who has been profoundly missing her cherished Ada. He shrewdly leverages his guardianship of Elif and his corporate shares to compel a dumbfounded Bora to reinstate Ada against his better judgment. Bora is righteously incensed, feeling profoundly betrayed that his own parent would exploit the sorrowful memory of his departed wife. Bora's reprisal is astonishingly swift and severe, presenting Ada with the sole available role, a menial courier. Despite this demeaning proposition, our valiant Ada accepts with blazing resolve, determined that Tucha will not triumph. The tension then soars when Mr. Fairhot telephones regarding a distinguished writing contest, a monumental opportunity. In a stunningly vindictive act fueled by pure malice, Bora nominates Tuche as the firm's representative, utterly demolishing his pledge to Ada. Yet our fantastic Ada resolves not to be subdued by this inequity and seizes control of the situation herself. Ada authors a truly sublime article entitled Two Foes, Love and Despair, and its composition is simply exquisite. With discreet assistance from the marvelous Pyrrole, the piece is published and becomes an immediate online phenomenon, shattering every viewership record. Nevertheless, Bora's fury ignites when he learns this was done without his consent, and he angrily demands the superb work be removed. His subsequent act of vengeance is nearly inconceivable. He forces Ada to serve as the chauffeur for his dinner engagement with Tuche. He malevolently and intentionally brings them to the modest kufta eatery where he and Ada once created such joyous, cherished moments. The atmosphere's unbelievably strained as Ada delivers their food, a truly heart-rending spectacle to witness. Meanwhile, the ever-conniving Tuche feels the pressure mounting and hires a man named Burkhan to implicate Ruzgar in the Restermont video controversy. However, when Ruzgar vows to reveal her plot, she makes an astonishing reversal and instructs Burkhan to incriminate Ada instead. Then, a moment of deep and graceful finality occurs as Ada and Ruzgar convene at court to make their divorce official. They engage in an unexpectedly candid and profoundly moving discussion, recognizing their intricate history and offering one another full forgiveness. Ruzgar even confesses he had sincerely developed feelings for her, and they separate as companions, at last concluding that difficult era of their lives. Tuche's grand scheme totally disintegrates when Burkhan appears at the office to present his fabricated testimony against Ada. He finds himself facing immense strain from various angles and escapes without identifying anyone, leaving Tuche utterly helpless and fuming. Utterly drained by the ceaseless avalanche of deceit, Ada makes the most courageous choice of her life. She summons her family, instructing them all to gather at Bora's home because the time for the complete truth has finally arrived. In a moment of astounding theatrical force, Ada appears with her relatives and discloses everything before the entire group. With astonishing bravery, she unveils the clandestine marriage, her true motivation for being there, and the reality that she genuinely fell for Bora. The resulting tremor is so powerful that Aunt Nergis collapses, and it even comes to light that Aunt Yasemin was unwed all along. Bora is completely distraught by the admission, labeling Ada the most proficient deceiver he has ever known and expelling her in a heartbreaking conclusion to the encounter. The narrative then leaps forward a nail-biting 6 months, revealing to us a transformed Ada. Her marvelous companions, Ali and Celine, now betrothed, show up with some absolutely staggering information from Istanbul. They disclose that Bora at last discovered Tucci's malicious plot with the video and promptly dismissed her from the firm. Then, in the most wondrous instant conceivable, just as Ada contemplates her existence, Bora materializes before her very eyes. He offers the most exquisite, heartfelt declaration you can imagine, professing that he is simply unable to exist without her.